Hello guys, welcome to my channel, Casual the Great. Today I will be reading you some scary and spooky Reddit r/no sleep stories. In the background I will be having some Rainbow Six Siege gameplay to mix up the algorithm a bit since I've seen mostly Minecraft gameplay, so I'm hoping that you guys enjoy this kind of content. This is my first attempt at this kind of content, so please let me know down below if you'd like to see more. And without further ado, let's get into the stories. Here is the first story. It's from the user prior_foundation8581 from r/no sleep. Me and my friends went to Disneyland last month. Now my boyfriend isn't acting like himself. So, we went to Disneyland Paris last month. Just me, my boyfriend Leo, and our friends Mark and Chloe. It was the trip of a lifetime. For a few days it felt surreal in the best way possible. Endless giggling, ridiculous photos, way too much sugar, and that strange sensation that real life had just been temporarily switched off. It all started at Phantom Manor. We queued for nearly 40 minutes. Inside, it felt both cold and stuffy at the same time, smelling vaguely of dust, air conditioning, and something sweet that I couldn't quite place. We were about to be directed into our doom buggy when Leo suddenly stopped dead. Completely dead. He grabbed me tightly with both hands, his knuckles turning white. "I can't do this," he whispered. I laughed, thinking he was joking. "You're kidding! Phantom Manor scares you?" But he didn't laugh. He just kept his gaze fixed above us, as if he were trying to hear, or perhaps recall something. "I have a really bad feeling," he murmured. "A really bad one." Mark chuckled. "Mate, it's practically a kiddie's ride." Leo shook his head. "I'll wait outside." I tried to talk him round, but it was no use. Eventually, he just nodded and said, "I'll be just outside, promise." I watched him go, black hoodie on, hands jammed into his pockets, without looking back. We went on without him. The ride was just a few minutes long, but from the beginning it felt wrong. I knew Phantom Manor. It was always supposed to be theatrical, not scary. This was somehow different. The sounds were muffled and slow. The animatronics seemed to twitch rather than glide. And when I looked in one of the mirrors, seeing the doom buggy behind ours appeared in the reflection, I could have sworn that, for a split second, Leo was sitting in it. Empty space. I blinked, and then he was gone. Just shadows and glass. I told myself it was the mirrors and the lighting. When we got out, Leo wasn't waiting outside. Nobody worried, not at first. Disneyland is enormous, and you can easily lose people. Maybe he'd gone for a drink or a wee. But 15 minutes later, I had this horrible heaviness in my stomach, and I asked Mark and Chloe to check Frontierland while I went back toward the ride exit one last time. And then I found him, standing outside the exit by a popcorn cart, staring straight at the castle, not moving, not on his phone, not even looking like he was waiting for anybody. "Leo," I nearly shouted, "what are you doing?" I touched his shoulder and he jumped, as if he'd pulled out of a deep sleep. Then he turned, and he looked calm. He smiled that normal smile again, almost too normal, and said, "Hey, where were you guys?" "Where were we? We've been looking for you everywhere." He frowned a little. "I've been right here, by the exit." He sounded so natural that, for a moment, I almost felt silly. When Mark and Chloe rejoined me, he said the exact same thing to them. "I've been right here." But that's not what frightened me. It was the fact that he sounded so perfectly rehearsed, as if he were repeating lines from a play he learned an hour ago. Still, the rest of the trip was fairly normal, or so I thought at the time. The strangeness really only started when we got home. First, it was small things. Leo had been drinking black coffee since he was 19. The other morning, I saw him spoon 3 teaspoons of sugar into his cup, and when he noticed me staring, he shrugged. "Guess I've developed a sweet tooth." Then he started forgetting things. Our things. On our first date, a pigeon had swooped down and snatched a whole hot dog out of his hands, and we'd laughed so hard we both cried, and passerbys stared at us as if we were clinically insane. The last time I brought it up, he just stared at me with a blank expression. Oh, right. He didn't recall anything. Not the ketchup stain on his shirt, not that I'd called the pigeon the bandit, nothing. Then it got worse. He started humming melodies I'd never heard. I'd find him staring at himself in mirrors for prolonged periods, as if checking that all his features were still in place. And his laugh. God, it sounded like Leo. But it was delayed, like an echo. It was like he'd memorized how to laugh, but not the timing. I tried convincing myself I was overreacting, until last night. We were on the sofa watching a movie when I made a joke about the cheese drawer. It was our own private little phrase for the emergency chocolate stash in the back of the cupboard. Leo looked at me blankly. What cheese drawer? My body went cold. You know, the cheese drawer. I don't know what you're talking about. He really didn't know. There was no faking it. I fled to the bathroom and called Chloe. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Chloe, there's something wrong with Leo. What happened? He's been so different since Disneyland. He's been forgetting things, acting completely unlike himself. I feel like he never came back. There was a long silence on the line. Too long. Chloe? When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Sarah, Leo rang me last week. What? I froze. He said he was worried about you. My chest tightened. Worried about me? He said that since Phantom Manor, you've been different, forgetful, and he's seen you staring at him like you were trying to imitate him. I couldn't breathe. That's crazy. And then Chloe said the words that made my stomach lurch. Sarah, all of us remember it the same way. My throat seized up. What do you mean? You were the one who was worried and saying you had a bad feeling. Cold flooded my body. No. You stayed outside, Chloe whispered. Mark and I went on the ride with Leo. That's not possible. We spent nearly an hour looking for you afterwards. My mind went completely blank, because that wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that Chloe had always agreed with me. Every time we talked about the trip, she remembered Leo staying outside. Now, suddenly, she didn't. Then, we found you stood by the popcorn stand, Chloe said, her voice very quiet, just repeating that you've been there the whole time. The phone nearly slipped out of my hand. I'm sitting in the living room, trying not to panic. I can hear him in the kitchen, still humming the same new tune. Cabinets opening and closing with excruciating slowness. Just a minute ago, he called my name, but for a split second, his voice sounded doubled, like two people talking at once. He thinks I'm in the shower, and I can't stop thinking about one thing. If Leo remembers that I stayed outside, and I remember that about him, then who actually went on the ride? And which one of us is home? Now, on to the next story. This story was posted by legal_character_5501. I booked the Airbnb because it was cheap. That alone should have tipped me off. I needed a last-minute escape to Northern California. 3 days to reset, get some remote work done, and breathe somewhere quiet. Most places were booked or insanely expensive. Then this one showed up, half the price of anything else. Entire home, private, no shared spaces. The photos, pretty standard. Small 2-story house tucked in the woods, clean kitchen, nothing fancy, but it looked comfortable. The host's name was Daniel, but his profile was brand new. No reviews, another red flag, but I shrugged it off. I needed a place, so I booked. Getting there was a slog, and it was already dark when I finally pulled up. The house matched the photos exactly. Stands all by itself, tall trees all around, with just a lonely porch light over the door. I punched in the code Daniel sent me, stepped inside. It was dead quiet inside, not the cozy kind of quiet you'd expect in a cabin. More like the air was pressed down, heavy. I tried to shake it off. The place smelled a little stale, like it hadn't been aired out in a while, but it was spotless, no clutter, no dust. I tossed my bag on the couch and wandered around. Living room, kitchen, bathroom, everything matched the listing. Then I spotted the stairs. Leading up to the second floor, there was a tiny sign at the bottom. Upstairs is locked. Not included. That wasn't in the listing. I checked my phone. Entire home. No mention of locked doors. So I messaged Daniel. Hey, quick question. Listing says entire home, but there's a sign saying upstairs is locked. He shot back right away. Yeah, just storage, nothing up there. You have full access to everything you need downstairs. Thumbs up emoji. The instant reply creeped me out a little, like he knew I'd ask. I stared at the stairs for a while, feeling weird about it, but eventually I let it go. First night was fine. I ordered some takeout, lounged on the couch, watched Netflix, tried to relax. Around midnight, I went to bed. At some point, I woke up, not sure why, just this sound, a faint step up from above me. I froze, listening. Heard nothing else. I told myself it was old house noises, piping, temperature changes, tried to sleep again. Then another thud, slower, definite, like something was shifting way upstairs. My chest got tight. I sat up, super still. Hello? I called. Silence. I checked my phone. 3:12 a.m. Classic. I almost laughed at myself. This was dumb. Tried to sleep, barely managed it. Morning came, and honestly, everything felt normal again. Sunlight makes things less creepy. I made coffee, settled by the window, tried to focus on work. Around lunch, I checked the Wi-Fi settings. Just habit, really. That's when I saw it. 2 devices connected. My laptop and something labeled device upstairs. I stared at the list. Maybe it was a smart thermostat or something. But the name? Too specific. I took a screenshot and sent it to Daniel. Hey, is there another device connected to the Wi-Fi? Something called device upstairs? This time, he didn't write back right away. 5 minutes. 10. Finally. Probably just an old device. Nothing to worry about. That was it. Not even a real answer. I messaged again. Okay, but I heard footsteps last night. Are you sure no one's up there? He read it. Nothing. That night I locked my bedroom door. I don't even know why. Wouldn't stop anyone already inside. It just made me feel less exposed. I kept the lights on late. Eventually, around 1 a.m., I climbed into bed. I woke up again at 3:12 a.m. This time, the noises weren't subtle. Pacing, slow, back and forth, right over my head. My heart was pounding. Nope, I whispered. Nope, not doing this. I grabbed my phone, about to message Daniel again. Before I could hit send, the footsteps stopped. Dead silence. Then, that dragging sound. Furniture scraping on the floor right above me. Something heavy. I couldn't breathe. Hello, I said, louder this time. Nothing. I got up. Couldn't seem to stop myself. Panic, curiosity, adrenaline, who knows. I went out to the hallway. The stairs waited. Black, still. Every instinct in me wanted to run, but I climbed them anyways. The sign was still there. Upstairs is locked. But the door at the top was ajar. Light spilled through the gap. I don't remember deciding to go up. I just did it. One step at a time, the air getting colder. My hand shook as I pushed the door open. The room wasn't for storage. Someone was living up there. A mattress, empty food containers, water bottles, clothes thrown around. And then I saw the photos. Dozens spread across the floor. I picked one up. It was me, sleeping in the bed downstairs. My hands were shaking. More photos, all of me, from different angles, different nights. Some taken from the hallway, some from inside my room. In one photo, I saw a reflection in a window. Someone was standing behind me, watching. I dropped the photos. That's when I heard a voice just behind me, quiet. You weren't supposed to come up here. I turned. I saw him. I don't remember running out of the house, just barefoot, tearing through the woods until I hit the main road. I called the police. When we went back, the house was spotless. Nothing upstairs, no mattress, no photos. Like nobody had ever been there. They told me I'd probably imagined everything. Stress, lack of sleep. Before I left, I checked the Wi-Fi again, still connected. Device upstairs. I messaged to Daniel. Who was in that house? He replied instantly. You weren't supposed to go upstairs. I reported the listing. It's gone now, completely wiped. But here's the part that really gets me. Last night, at home, I checked my phone. There was a new device on my Wi-Fi. I never added it. The name? Device downstairs. Now, to the next story. This is from the user Blinking in Morse Code. I don't know what to do or who to tell. I just need someone to believe me. I know how this is going to sound. I've deleted this 3 times already and I never post on Reddit, but I need someone else to know, in case something happens to me, in case he comes back. My older brother Danny first mentioned the baking soda man the summer he turned 19. We were in the kitchen, I was maybe 15, and he said it the way you'd mention the weather. The guy on Crestwood has baking soda again. I didn't understand. I said we had baking soda, pointing at the yellow box in the cabinet. Danny looked at me with this flat, tired expression, like I'd said something embarrassing. He left without eating. Over the next few months, I started hearing the name more. Not from Danny. He'd gone quiet the way people go quiet when something important is happening to them. I heard it from his friends, from older kids at the bus stop. Always the same way, casual, reverent, almost nervous. He's on Crestwood. He's over by the old Regency lot. He'll be behind the Presbyterian church tonight, after 9. Nobody ever said what the baking soda was for. I assumed it was slang for something. Drugs, probably. I was 15. I filed it away. The first time I saw him, I was 16. Danny had stopped coming home for dinner. Mom had started keeping the kitchen light on all night, the way parents do when they're too scared to say what they're scared of. I was cutting through the parking lot behind the old Rite Aid when I saw the small crowd, maybe 6 or 7 people. All adults, all with that look. You know the look. The hollow, waiting look. They were standing in a rough semicircle around a man I've never seen before. He was ordinary. That's the thing I keep coming back to. Medium height, maybe 40, maybe 60. Genuinely impossible to say. He wore a gray jacket, the kind with too many pockets. His hair was the color of dirty snow. He had the face of someone who'd been described to you, not someone you'd actually seen. He was holding a box of baking soda, the standard kind. Arm & Hammer orange box. 1 pound. He was handing it out, not selling. I didn't see any money change in hands. Just giving. 1 box per person. And every person who took a box held it the way you'd hold a religious thing, a relic, both hands close to the chest. I want to be very clear about the next part, because this is the part nobody believes me. The baking soda boxes were always new, sealed. The little freshness tab always intact, every box, every person. He seemed to have an unlimited supply, and nobody ever asked where it came from. And he never seemed to run out. I watched from behind a dumpster for maybe 10 minutes before he looked directly at me. He didn't react the way you'd expect. No surprise, no anger. He just looked at me the way you look at someone you've been expecting. He reached into his jacket, and I thought he was going to pull out another box. Instead, he adjusted something, patted his pocket. He went back to the line. I ran home. I didn't tell anyone. Danny came home in October. He looked the way people look after something long and consuming. Thinner, careful about what he touched. He sat at the kitchen table, and our mom made him soup, and he ate it all, and he said, "I'm done with that." Our mom didn't ask what he meant. I think she knew. That night I knocked on his door, and asked him about the baking soda man. Danny was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "He smells like it, you know, all the time, even outside, even in winter, just that clean, chemical smell." I asked what the baking soda was for. Danny said, "Nothing. That's the thing. It's not for anything. You want it. You need to have it. 1 box, and then you go home, and you put it in a drawer or a cabinet or under your bed, and it just sits there. And that night, you sleep better than you've slept in years. And then, after a few days, it starts to run out. The feeling, and you need another one." I asked, "Run out how? It's just baking soda. It doesn't—" "I know," Danny said. "I know it doesn't." He told me the rest in pieces over the following weeks. How the first box had appeared on our porch 3 years before with no note. How he'd thrown it away and found himself digging it out of the trash at 2 a.m. without understanding why. How he'd sought the man out after that, first out of curiosity, then out of something else. How everyone in the little communities that formed around the baking soda man were totally normal people. Professionals, parents, kids from the college, quiet, slightly embarrassed, perfectly functional in every other area of their lives, just dependent on a box of baking soda from a man whose name nobody knew. How nobody ever got sick from it. How it didn't seem to do anything. How that somehow made it worse. "The boxes are always sealed," Danny said. "I opened one in front of him once, just to see what he'd do. He didn't care. He just watched. And it was just baking soda. I tasted it and everything. Normal. Nothing." He paused. "But I still kept it. I kept all of them. I had 17 boxes under my bed. Mom found them once and threw them out, and I didn't handle it well." He didn't elaborate on that. I didn't push. Danny moved away 2 years later. He's okay now, I think. We don't talk about it. I'm writing this because last week I came home from work and there was a box of baking soda on my front step. Arm & Hammer. Orange. 1 pound, sealed. No note, no footprints on the wet porch. My neighbor's Ring camera shows the porch at 4:14 a.m. and the step is bare. At 4:15, the box is there. The camera didn't malfunction. The timestamp is unbroken. Nothing walks by. The box simply appears. I threw it in the dumpster down the street. I have not slept properly since. Not because I'm scared, exactly. Because I keep thinking about how much better I'd sleep if I hadn't thrown it away. And I've started noticing an orange corner of something in every cabinet I open, every drawer I check, every shelf I pass at the grocery store. I know it's nothing. I know it's just baking soda. It's everywhere. It's a normal household product. But I can still smell him. That clean, chemical smell. He's on Crestwood again. And that was the last story of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was very different from what I've ever done. I usually do things like Fortnite gameplay. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. I will most likely be making more videos like these. This was a short one since it was just kind of a test one to test the waters to see how it does in the algorithm. I hope you enjoyed the stories. Let me know what your favorite one was. Mine was probably the Airbnb one. I really liked. It also reminded me of a movie called The Barbarian, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I just liked the end a lot in the story where it said the device downstairs. That was really cool. The last story, the baking soda story, it was interesting to me because I just liked the concept of not knowing why your attention is being so drawn to the box of baking soda. It's just funny to me, and I really liked that concept. But yeah, let me know your guys' favorite story that you heard. Let me know if you have any advice. And also, I apologize for my siege skills. They are not very good. I just started last week and I've been really enjoying the game. So I just wanted to put some of that gameplay in the background. Please don't criticize my playing skills. I'm trying to get better. Anyways, sorry for the long outro. I really hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.